Now, if they move on, there's guys that can move into their place. It'll be interesting to see what they do at Marcus Williams. Let's get back to the offense for a moment, though, because, look, it's about continuity, culture, keeping things together. In a lot of cases, it's the players that drive the culture. They're the policemen within the locker room. We get it. The leaders are there. Offensively, you don't want to change the terminology, and you don't really want to change the playbook much because, again, it was a winning formula. The question is, will they go outside of the organization for an offensive coordinator, or will they go with a Peyton protege so they can keep that terminology, keep that playbook intact? Having Marrone come over, it looks like, again, and also Morton, that looks like the path they're going down. But it'll be interesting to see, again, what happens now. Remember, they have to interview an external minority candidate. They cannot just elevate from within on both the offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator position. They interviewed defensive back coach from Detroit, Aubrey Pleasant, yesterday for the defensive coordinator position. He is a minority candidate. We haven't heard anything about the offensive side of the ball yet.
Yeah, I believe this is starting to push toward them being a guy outside the building. They bring him. I mean, Ronald Curry. They have a lot of trust in Ronald Curry.
Now, he was the quarterback coach. If Carmichael goes into that role, what role does Curry go into?
That is the only way I think they could keep continuity and keep the offense. Ronald Curry knows the Saints offense very well. The whole Carmichael situation is very strange.
It is weird.
Why would you turn down now, he wasn't going to get the head coaching position.
It was a courtesy
Courtesy
Don't
you
interview.
want to get in that room?
Right.
Don't you want to be in front of all those people? Do you want to see how it is? I think Pete Carmichael a few years back had some sniffs in college.
Right.
He probably right now is the longest tenured assistant coach for one team in the NFL.
Right.
I mean, being here since 06.
Yes.
I mean, those coaching staffs flip a ton.
Right.
So that is a strange one. But if you have Carmichael and you have Marrone and you have Morton, and maybe if you can keep Curry, that would give me everything to say that offense is going to stay, the offensive philosophy is going to stay intact. Just you need to now get the pieces to make it work. A
lot of people would like to see Eric Bieniemy, New Orleans native, lived here. He was 10 years old and moved out to Los Angeles, went to Colorado and played for the Buffaloes there as the offensive coordinator. I've always thought that, you know what, he's probably coaching waiting in Kansas City, and I can't see Andy Reid coaching that many more years. What are your thoughts about him possibly coming in and being the offensive coordinator? Look, the NFL would like to see, obviously, more minorities in coordinator positions and head coaching positions. There's been an emphasis on it, especially this offseason. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah. Nearly 8-hour meeting.
Yes.
So obviously
they know him now, right?
Yeah.
It's not like he's got to come in for a second meeting.
Right. That's been the talk. Okay, so he's had 15 interviews with different teams in the last 4 off seasons, 32 jobs in the NFL, 15 of them. I guess you take the Chiefs out. So half the league kicked the tires on Eric Bieniemy, and he missed on all of them. So it's either got to be one or two things, is that he's in coaching waiting in Kansas City, or they still think this is mostly Andy Reid's offense, and he's with Andy Reid, but he couldn't do this on his own, the offense. So that would be my only way.
So maybe like a Carmichael.
Yeah. So if I'm Eric Bieniemy, if there isn't a coaching waiting scenario, I would definitely think about taking the Saints gig, because this will be you. This is your offense. They give you the keys to and everything. Because people still think in Kansas City. It's the same thing with Nick Saban, like with Pete Golding. I think Pete Golding's a good defense coordinator, but they think this is Saban's defense, okay? The same thing with Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy. You know, Bieniemy might be calling plays, but this is this is Reid's
In other words,
offense.
get from behind his shadow.
Right. And if you get from behind his shadow and you do this in New Orleans, I mean, do it for 1 year, 2 years, you can guarantee getting a job in the league.
Right. As I agree with that. It'd be interesting to see if they do that, because again, terminology, the playbook, how much does that change? You know, the coach comes in and learns the new terminology then, right? Not the players. Because again, it's about continuity and culture, trying to keep things, you know, again, as that's the reason why you elevate from within. So why you're bringing in these guys that are former proteges of Sean Payton. Did find it interesting this week that Mickey Loomis talked about the fact that it's been a cooperative effort. That also Dennis Allen is going to have say in personnel. That's something Sean Payton was very, very heavily influenced in. Jeff Ireland, Michael Parrington, obviously Kai Harley, Mickey Loomis, and then, of course, now Dennis Allen, all involved in personnel. It's a great move to have the coach with his hands in personnel going forward. Now, at the end of the day, you got to let the guys that do the scouting, that know the college guys, know the pro guys, probably make the final decision, where Peyton made the final decision. It'll be interesting to see, again, how much power Dennis Allen gets if he is successful. Because that's how Peyton got his power. Came in 06, goes to the NFC Championship. From that point forward, it was his ball game.
Yeah, and I also believe that the draft has gotten exponentially better for the New Orleans Saints.
True.
Jeff Ireland
there's
got
no
in there.
doubt.
Yeah, I think it did well with Peyton. Obviously, that 06 draft class was one of the greatest of all time. But I think Jeff Ireland has a heavy say in this now. I don't know what Mickey Loomis is. I don't know if he's more of a wise GM that kind of gives information down.
Delegate?
I think he pushes more down to Jeff Ireland, because people have try to get Jeff Ireland to go to their staffs.
Right.
So I'm trying to figure out what Jeff Ireland exactly does with the Saints, because is he making the final call? Who's making that? So now that Dennis Allen's in charge, maybe that gives Jeff Ireland a little more power, because Sean Payton had most of that draft power.
But he did trust Ireland, and that was one of the things. You know, we heard that when they would get into the rooms, that Ireland, again, Payton would listen to Ireland. When maybe in the past, when we've seen really bad drafts, Payton was headstrong on certain guys that he wanted that maybe just didn't fit. And I found it interesting also that Loomis said this week that both Kai Harley, Parrington, and also Jeff Ireland would all make great GMs. Okay, so he put that out there. Also, the fact that Dennis Allen wants to put his own stamp on this. He mentioned on the offensive side that, and I'm quoting from him, he wants to have an offense that'll be tough, that will run the football, they'll have the ability to create explosive plays. The question is, again, you've got to change the personnel a bit here for that, okay? How much does that change, and what is that maybe a precursor to what he's looking for in an offensive coordinator?
Yeah, I'm also, is Dennis Allen have that kind of power? Is it going to be only his call on this OC, this search?
Right.
The dynamic,
but normally a head coach does, right?
Right.
Normally head coach, look, especially if you're bringing a guy from within, you want to give him an opportunity to be able to, again, get some staff members that he feels comfortable with.
Right.
I mean, he's already let 3 staff members go, in Rausha, CJ, and the strength and conditioning coach. So obviously he's got he had a hand in that, feeling not maybe uncomfortable with those guys would work what he's trying to do.
I feel like with Sean Payton, it was 100% his call on any of his coaches.
I agree.
But with Dennis Allen, maybe it's down to 65%, 60. There's a lot more people that have says in this. And that it was smart by Mickey Loomis to throw some bouquets at some of his guys under him, because sooner or later, I mean, Kai Harley's going to be gone quickly. I mean, you see Atlanta, their general managers is doing really well under he was under the Mickey Loomis tree.
Right.
Jeff Ireland sooner or later is going to get out of here if Mickey Loomis doesn't make a elevate up. I just don't know where Mickey Loomis is going to elevate up to.
Well, I've often talked about it. Again, vice president in charge of, again, team operations, over the Pelicans, over the Saints.
Yeah.
And that
but he's already done that before.
Right.
And I don't think he wanted to do that. I think he did.
I think he likes being involved in the football side of it. But look, go back to the track record when it was Haslett and him, and you look at those drafts, and those drafts are very top heavy, and then they had a guy named Jonathan Sullivan was involved in one of those drafts as well. So again, it got much better when Peyton got here, and it got even better when he had Jeff Ireland, obviously when things were swooning, in those 3 straight 7 and 9 seasons. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Quarterback, running back now with the Kamara situation, okay, you need that. Wide receiver, okay, at least 2, a veteran and a rookie, okay. Tight end, you need at least a starter there, right?
Yeah, I don't know if Adam Troutman's the answer.
Maybe down the line he is, but again, you still need a starter. And then offensive line, you got to figure out what you're going to be there. Is Armstead coming back, or are you letting him go? And then, or if you're going to do that, how are you shuffling this line? Are you moving Ramczyk to the left side now? Is Ruiz, can he stay at the guard position, considering what we saw last year out of him? Is Landon Young going to be the guy, or James Hurst going to be the guy on the right side? So again, you may be drafting. So every single position on the offensive side of the ball needs help right now. So again, it's not like the offense that we saw with Sean Payton that was a juggernaut. This is a rebuilding job in a lot of cases on the offensive side. But it's not, with the exception of the quarterback position, in my opinion, it's not daunting. Okay, you can add positions that you have on those other position groups, players to that position groups, and get better quickly.
Yeah, I think when you talk about the offensive line, Teron Armstead's a fantastic locker room guy. I just think you have a lot of assets on that line. I've heard they really like Landon Young. He went on IR after having a strong performance.
Had a broken foot and played on it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
That is a good diamond in the rough to get him, what, in the 6th round out of Kentucky?
Kentucky, right.
I think that the move would be to put left side be Ryan Ramczyk.
Right.
I think they like Throckmorton also is in that mix.
Right.
Will Clapp, can't get rid of him, baby. Just keeps rolling
He plays
around.
multiple positions.
Yeah, multiple positions. You would hope Andres Pete comes back to 100%.
Considering his contract, he has to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and
at least for another year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's the problem with Armstead is injuries.
Right.
And I think he's going to also ask for a lot of money, and I think you're going to have to put that at other spots.
Right.
I mean, you talked about the defensive side of the ball. You probably might have to re-sign Marcus Williams.
And I tell you what, that's a tough one for me, Garland, because again, he turned down top 5 money last year. And are you telling me he's the best safety in football?
No, he's not.
Then you can't pay him as the best safety in football.
No, you can't. But I think he's a top 10 safety.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree. He could be even a top 5 safety in some people's eyes.
Yeah.
But he turned that down last year. And to franchise him again is exorbitant.
Yeah.
Okay? And you really can't afford that with, what is it, $71 million in dead money now? You know, I mean, you're going to be able to shuffle money around, to be able to open up cap room. They're going to be able to sign who they want. But at the same time, I think you got to be judicial in how you're going to deal with your cap money. And are you going to overpay for a safety because, again, he's been in your system? I think Dennis Allen's going to have a big say in that.
Oh, yes, on that one, yes.
Okay, but Garland, I mean, I think you could find another safety and not have to overpay for them.
Yeah, I also like what P.J. Williams has done.
Yeah.
Gotten him on the cheap numerous times.
Every, especially since the DUI, right?
Yeah, it's CJGJ or whatever CD use. I think he's here to stay.
One of the best nickels in the league.
Right. He doesn't have it all up here, but whatever.
Debo really helped last year in terms of, again, solidifying that spot opposite Marshall and Lattimore. Really, it's the safety position. Look, the linebacker position, if ultimately Quan moves on, you got Werner there, okay? So he can move right into that spot. And he showed flashes this past year.
Yeah.
You know, and then on the defensive line,
oh boy,
you got to figure. You got to figure out what you're going to do there. You know, if not, you got Peyton Turner there. But look, you let Trey Henderson walk out the door because you put up 2 number 1 picks for Davenport.
And Peyton Turner was kind of he was just gone this year.
Right.
You know, he barely played.
Much like Davenport. Right.
Yeah, they've dealt with some injury issues on the defensive line. You know, in every offseason they talk about how Mickey Loomis is a wizard with the salary cap. I mean, Trey Henderson should have still been on the New Orleans Saints if wreaked havoc. I still think Jack Rabbit would have been a good person to keep. So let's just kind of pump the brakes on he's a genius, okay? Because you definitely want a Trey Henderson back.
They got sideswiped by the COVID-19 losses.
Yes, they did.
I think they had everything planned on how they were going to re-sign these. We wouldn't have seen the mass exodus of players from this team last year if it wasn't for the COVID-19 losses. That's just something they couldn't overcome in a year where, you know, again, you got to pay the piper on Drew Brees. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But I'm not concerned about that. They're going to get under the cap. They're going to be able to sign players. Let's talk about Alvin Kamara, though, before we break. Arrested in Vegas for battery resulting in substantial bodily harm. There's a court day in March now. No one has seen the video except for, again, the NFL, Las Vegas police, and obviously those that have been involved in this situation. Supposedly the video is not good for Alvin Kamara. Look, we've seen this before. He could be suspended from 2 to 4 games. There could be a fine. Maybe on the judicial system side, because he's never been in trouble before, they can plead that down to maybe a misdemeanor, get some community service, pay a fine. But the NFL and the NFL security has been all over this since this happened. This was an NFL-sanctioned event in the Pro Bowl, and I don't think the NFL is going to turn a blind eye to what happened, no matter what happens going forward. So you could pretty much say Kamara's probably going to be gone for the first quarter of the season. So that means running back now becomes a priority for this team, where maybe you were just looking for a running back that you could draft, that you could kind of ease into the mix here. Now it's kind of a priority where you didn't have it before. Yeah,
Mark Ingram is looking good now. He probably is going to have to come back again next season. But yeah, and you know, the Saints have had a lot of success drafting running backs in the back end of the draft, so I think they could do that route again. That Kamara story just blows my mind, because he is one of the more relaxed, laid-back guys.
Right?
It's out of character, but as we've learned in the city of New Orleans, at 1 or 2 in the morning, when you got a few, adult drinks in you, all bets are off. You think a little different, especially when you're with your crew. Things get a little more aggressive. I'm ready to see the tape. Okay.
Me too. I think everybody is, right?
Yeah, I'm ready to see the tape because I just didn't believe it. I mean, Alvin Kamara is one of the most laid-back dudes on that team. It just blows my mind. But
I can see maybe put the hand to stop the guy from getting in the elevator.
Right.
But I can't see running him down, hitting him 8 times, and what is it, 3 times when he was knocked out?
Yeah.
This doesn't.
It doesn't sound like Alvin at all.
Does not sound like Alvin Kamara at all.
No, he's been one of the. Yeah, he's one of the faces of the franchise. He's the best player on the team. I just
become a leader on this team.
Yeah, and he's like the media. He's won the media award for his availability. He's an easy guy to talk to. It just blows my mind. I really want to see this video.
Well, everybody does. But again, it doesn't change the fact that he's going to probably get suspended.
Yes.
And they need help now. Where maybe the running back was something you could get a little bit later on in the draft. Now you got to have a guy that has to carry the ball for you, and maybe in the mode of a Kamara. Maybe you're looking for that guy now, that guy that has the same skill set, no doubt.
Yeah, because you're probably going to need a receiver. I know that they're talking about the Ohio State receivers, either Chris Olave or Garrett Wilson. Jamison Williams probably will go a little higher than they'll get, even though he's dealing with an ACL issue. So you want to get receiver pretty high up in that draft. But yeah, you can get a running back in the 3rd or 4th round. There's some good ones out there. Get maybe a Ty Davis Price in the 5th or 6th round, because I don't think he's going that high. That was a major mistake by his camp to go in the draft. But maybe you can get a guy like him late in the rounds.
You know what's interesting, Garland, and I thought about this last night as I was watching NFL Network, and they were putting out their forecasts for their mock drafts. I wonder if the Ohio State connection will continue here in New Orleans now with Peyton gone. I mean, he's always leaned toward Ohio State players. Obviously, he had a relationship with that coaching staff. I wonder if that still continues here in New Orleans now that he's gone.
Yeah, well, he's got some great receivers. When Jamison Williams can't break into the starting lineup with Ohio State and has to go to Alabama, that shows you how strong Olave and Wilson are with Ohio State.
A lot of people believe it's going to be one of those two.
There is a wealth of receivers that the Saints can jump into. So I think it makes smart sense to get a receiver. That's if you don't lock up your quarterback in free agency.
Yep, I would agree. We'll take a break. We come back. We'll jump right into Pelicans. We're also going to talk about recruiting for LSU and Tulane, NIL. We'll touch on college basketball as well. All that coming up here on Inside New Orleans Sports from Fox 8 Sports. Garland Gillen is our guest. I'm your host, Eric Asher.
Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration has been family-owned and operated since 1989. Burkhart has energy-efficient solutions and offers brands such as Mitsubishi ductless AC units and Amana, the only manufacturer with a lifetime unit replacement warranty. Burkhart's offers maintenance bundle packages that include servicing your AC, generator, and tankless water heater. For more information on the services Burkhart's provides, visit acpromise.com. Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration, providing comfort for life.
Located at 3701 Iberville Street in Mid-City is Katie's Restaurant and Bar. Open 7 days a week, Katie's offers daily specials for lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch. Serving New Orleans cuisine such as fried shrimp platters, grilled redfish, and a fully stocked bar. And don't forget about our expanded event seating and local entertainment. Featured on the Best of Food Network's diners, drive-ins, and dives, Katie's Restaurant and Bar.
Welcome back to Inside New Orleans Sports. Garland Gillen of Fox 8 Sports is our guest. We switch shift to the Pelicans. They are 22-32. They are in the 10th slot right now, so they would qualify for the play-in game, of the play-in tournament rather. They're 3 games out of the 9th slot, and they're 8 games out of the 6th slot. If they can get to the 6th slot, they don't have to play in the play-in tournament. So we'll see how that plays out. 7-5 in December, 5-10 in January. They've won 4 in a row here in February. There are rumors, reports that Zion is back in New Orleans. Again, we'll see how that plays out. Although C.J. McCollum mentioned today, and Garland was there, that oddly Zion was in Portland. He was here, but there are reports that he's back. We'll see how that kind of plays out. I was a little surprised that David Griffin was not asked about him on the broadcast the other night on, again, where he was. But we'll get into that a little bit later. The big news is the trade. The Pelicans trade Josh Hart Tomas Saranowski, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Didi Lozada, a 2022 first-round protected pick, 2 future second-round picks to the Portland Trailblazers for C.J. McCollum, Tony Snell, and Larry Nance Jr. Larry Nance Jr. has a knee injury and may miss the rest of the season. He is under contract for next year, but there's a possibility that he may have to go into surgery and may not be available for the rest of the season. But the big player there is obviously C.J. McCollum, an all-star coming to New Orleans. I think it was a tremendous deal for David Griffin and the Pelicans. And the thing that really struck me was when you were there today, because you'll be able to communicate this, was the fact that C.J. McCollum talked about he was involved in this process every step of the way on where he was going to go, which again tells me that the Willie Green era has already changed the culture. We saw Josh Hart, Nickeil Alexander-Walker sitting in the stands after they got traded in the Houston game. That just doesn't happen. You know, the hugs and everything else. In just a short period of time, Willie Green has totally turned the culture around to the point that, again, players want to stay here. And in McCollum's case, who was an all-star, he wanted to come here.
Yeah, it's very strong for the Pelicans that they get a guy that wanted to be here, because there's not a lot of people who want to be here sometimes.
Especially if you listen to the national media, right?
Right. And he's been in the playoffs every year. He's been in the league. All 7 years that before, he's been in the playoffs. And he wants to keep that streak intact, so he came to New Orleans. Now, I'll say one thing. The Trailblazers are a lot right behind the Pelicans, so he's kind of taking it away from them, so almost guaranteeing him get into the playoffs. I mean, who don't want to play with Braden Ingram right now?
Right.
Who doesn't want to play with, I think Devontae Graham's been kind of up and down, but I think Devontae can definitely go back up again. Jackson Hayes looks really good. Jonas Valanciunas looks really good.
Right.
You talked about Zion.
Who knows?
You know, I talked to an official with the Pelicans.
Okay.
It's out of sight, out of mind right now. They're not even thinking about him right now, okay? They're thinking about this roster and how we can make the playoffs with this roster. It's almost like extracurricular activities if he comes back this season. But no one's talking about Zion right now. They're focused on the team right now. If he comes back, hey, I think probably about November, December, I gave up on the fact that he was going to play this season.
Year? Okay.
Yeah, I just think we've been lied to a couple of times already on Zion, and then when he went to Portland, I gave up. I was like, he's gone for the season.
Right.
But it finally gets the fan. I can't wait to see these crowds for the Miami game, the San Antonio game, the Saturday night. This is a playoff team now. They're going to probably be in that play-in game now because the Lakers are starting to take a nosedive right now.
As are the Clippers.
Yeah. And the Clippers, Paul George is probably out for the year. So is Kawhi Leonard. The Lakers are old and busted and breaking down. Right. So I think
you mentioned Portland's probably out of it now. No, I'm with you. That's why I mentioned this again. 8 games out of the 6th slot, because there is a chance they could continue to move up, especially if they can gel. Right. I mean, that's the thing. Anytime you bring a player in that's ball dominant like C.J. McCollum, there has to be a gel. Now, the fact that he's a point guard and can distribute, that's going to help as well. The other one is, if Zion does come back, there is a period in which, again, you're going to have to kind of adjust to him because he's another ball dominant player.
Yeah. And the bigger thing with C.J. McCollum, he can shoot from the outside. Yes. They don't have that.
No, they don't.
Devontae Graham was kind of up and down. Trey Murphy came in hot at the beginning of the season, but we haven't seen that from Trey Murphy.
Not consistently.
Herb Jones, more of an inside guy.
But he's shooting the ball better now.
He is. So, but you have a guy that's guaranteed to it. The last 7 years, he's averaged more than 20 points a game, C.J. McCollum. So you're getting a score, okay, and that's what they need, because they got some guys that can bang inside.
True.
They can just push everybody. If you're a defense going against Pelicans, pull it all in, protect the paint. Now you're going to start having to push a little further out there to deal with guys like C.J. McCollum.
Well, you're going to get more open looks if you're Brandon Ingram. If Zion comes back, C.J. McCollum's going to get open looks. The floor will be spread a little bit easier for the Pels. And look, McCollum's not a bad defensive player either. Look, I think they won the deal, which was amazing. Larry Nance, if would be healthy, he could come in right now and help you. He's a guy that can play above the rim. Now, again, if you're looking at him for next year, it is what it is. Snell can play. Snell shot 58% from the three-point line last year in Atlanta. Okay? So, again, he's in a slump right now at about 29%. But, again, maybe it's touches. Maybe, again, it's the way it is. But he's a bona fide NBA player. I hated to lose Josh Hart. He's the heart and soul of the team. I have a lot of I think there's a tremendous amount of upside with Nickeil Alexander-Walker. By the way, he was moved to Utah yesterday. Saranowski was moved as well. To San Antonio. So, again, they continue to be moved. But if you look at it on paper, they got 3 veteran players to go with a young team that I think makes them appreciably better immediately.
Yeah, and this is, I think, a playoff team going forward.
Right.
You're locked in, CJ McCollum until 2023,
Yes.
2024 season.
Right.
So you got him locked in. Sooner or later, Zion's going to come back, okay?
Right.
You got Ingram under contract. You got Devontae Graham under contract. You like the pieces they got going forward. And we've been talking with the Pelicans. It's like, wait till next year, wait till next
Right.
year. Well, I think this is finally the year they'll make the playoffs, and I think they can get up to a 4, 5, or 6 seed next season. So everything's starting to look up. Before the season started, they got that 3-16 start. You would have thought Griffin was out. I didn't put any of this on Willie Green, by the way.
No, of course
that
not.
was just a bad hand he was dealt on the front end of the season.
But look how he's turned it around.
Willie Green, I don't know.
I mean, from 1-12 to the 10th spot.
You got to give him Coach of the Year consideration.
There's no doubt about it.
If they get up to like the 8 seed this year in the Western Conference, Willie Green's got to be in the conversation for Coach of the Year. Learn from one of the best in Monty Williams, I think, with the Phoenix Suns. I'm really impressed with Willie Green and how he's developed this team. They've actually started to put on a really good product, and they're really fun to watch on the court.
Well, Carl, I mean, again, Alvin Gentry didn't have a winning culture here, okay? Van Gundy, there was a rebuttal of Van Gundy as soon as he got here, okay? So you're talking about 3 coaches in 3 years, and for him to so quickly change, again, the way the players feel about the organization, about the way they feel about each other, their teammates. We keep hearing the word brotherhood now within that locker room. You have to point to Willie Green. He's the guy. I mean, he's the guy that, again, has changed this. So, for a guy that is a rookie head coach coming into a situation which has been a no-win situation with a vice president of basketball operation who is clearly on the hot seat, who has lost the trust of the media and the fan base, he had an uphill battle. And before the All-Star break, he has changed the narrative here in New Orleans.
Yeah, Braden Ingram, I think, is an all-star.
I agree.
I mean, maybe he'll get it on a reserve if there's another injury coming up soon. I think Jonas Valanciunas is definitely rounded into form. I really like what he's done with the team.
Look at Hayes at the 4 down.
Jackson Hayes. Well, let's hear from Jackson Hayes, because I wasn't all in on that draft.
A lot of people weren't.
And he's all of a sudden heated up.
Right.
Once he's gotten to a different position on the court, he can slash. I mean, he didn't miss a shot when he was out in Denver. I'm really impressed.
His shooting percentage is way up. He's knocking down 3-point shots. He's using his athleticism baseline to baseline. So, I mean, again, he looks like a different player rather than have to go in and play defense in the paint against centers where, again, he doesn't match up well. He can use his athleticism. For him, it's been an awakening to be able to get to the 4. And look, it doesn't hurt the Pels to have a guy that maybe plays a little bit different at the 4 than Zion does. To have interchangeable players like that. Hopefully, again, he's found his position in the NBA, and that can be helpful to the Pels going forward.
Yeah, Jackson's young. I mean,
right. 1 year at Texas. Remember that. 1 year at Texas.
There's nothing but growth on this roster. I mean, now that the Saints are in the offseason, they missed the playoffs. You can definitely start putting your hands around the Pelicans. Okay, they're on a big homestand right now. They've already dispatched of one team. They're going through a homestand that's going to go through next week. So, hey, the weather, it's going to start to warm up a little. I know we got some parades on Saturday night in the French Quarter, but it's not a bad idea to go check out the team in the Smoothie King Center. How
were you impressed with CJ McCollum and again, your first encounter with him?
No, I really like his honesty, that he said that he was in on all the talk of a trade. I asked him, I mean, the Pelicans have made the playoffs since 2018. Right. They're not a team with a lot of playoff culture. And he's like, yeah. And the last time they won a playoff series was against my team in the Portland Trailblazers in 2018.
Thanks, Drew Holiday.
Yeah. So I like how he just kind of laughed that off. But he wants to be here. A lot of these trades, they don't want to be. They just don't like where the team where they're going. And he had ownership in this trade. So if he has ownership and he's under contract for some more years, you definitely like what he has and what this future has. And they want to play. He's already talking about, I want to play with Brandon Ingram and I want to play with Zion when he does come back.
Well, and again, hopefully that will be after the All-Star break. All right, let's shift gears to football. We're going to talk LSU first. 6th-rated class, 24/7 sports. You look at the transfer portal. They were ranked 3rd in the transfer portal. What are your thoughts on this particular class for Brian Kelly, his first class as head coach?
I'm impressed that they got to the 6th overall ranking, which 24/7 Sports had with a mixed transfers and recruits.
Okay.
Team went 6-7 last year. Okay, Coach Ogeron was an interim, or not interim, but he was gone. He was a lame duck coach toward the end of the year. For Brian Kelly to turn around this quickly and get all these pieces that he needed. I mean, he needed cornerbacks, and he got guys in the secondary. He got 2 guys from New Orleans that I covered both in high school, Greg Brooks Jr. and Joe Fuchs out of MAC 35. So I like what he got in the secondary. Got a tight end signed. Trying to get one to the transfer portal right now. Still needs a few more steps. This team's probably going to go 8-4 next year. Okay. People don't realize this, but the opener is right there in the Louisiana Superdome.
Right. Florida State.
That's a huge game. I know you saw what happened with the UCLA game this past year. The whole season tanked.
It sets the tone.
It sets the tone. You got Miles Brennan back. Hopefully he doesn't go fishing this offseason.
Right,
I know he is.
Yeah.
But please be careful, Miles. I know he's hunting too.
No flip-flops.
Yeah. We need him to stay healthy because when Miles Brennan was on, he should have been 3-0. Okay. If Bo Pelini's defense could have stopped anyone against Mississippi State at home and at Mizzou, then Miles Brennan could have a 3-0 quarterback in his career as a starter. So you got the quarterback, you got a ton of wide receivers. I'm really worried about the offensive line. They're going to have to put some new pieces in there. But you got to like what he got that with not a lot of time, and he got the #1 overall linebacker in the country, and Harold Perkins, who grew up in New Orleans, left right after Katrina.
Let's talk NIL before we get to Tulane. A&M did a great job in lining up NIL, and they came up with the #1 recruiting class. Even though Jimbo can downplay it all he wants, again, let's call it what it is. We know what it is. I was surprised after, the introduction to NIL and what they did in New York with all the stuff in lights, that they were really not ready for NIL for this upcoming recruiting class. Supposedly they had a meeting with businesses after the recruiting class to try to get this together. What are your thoughts on NIL, the future of it? Will we see a cap? Will we see the transfer portal in a lot of cases maybe shrink to where you can't transfer during the season, a certain schedule on when you can do that? Because it's changed the face of college athletics very, very quickly. And LSU doesn't look like it was ready for the NIL. First of all, will LSU be ready for NIL next time around?
They better be, because they've already lost some players and recruits.
Right.
And from what I've talked to some people that are close to the team, there's players on their roster right now that are being attached to other schools that are talking to the family still and going, LSU's dropping the ball with NIL right now. Okay, I don't understand why Jimbo Fisher, by the way, was trashing everyone that was talking about NIL.
Makes no sense.
Maybe he's trying to give respect to his coaching staff and not making it sound like it was just about the money. But you know what?
But it's just about the money.
It was about the money. Because you know what? Jacoby Matthews was going to go to LSU.
Right.
And then A&M popped up a lot more NIL money.
Right.
They took money when A&M realized that Harold Perkins was no longer going to Texas A&M, he's going to LSU. They took the money from Harold Perkins. They gave it to Shamar Stewart, who's a defensive lineman out of Florida, who signed with A&M on Sunday, and they gave some more to Jacoby Matthews. Okay, so Jacoby got more money. That's why he is in A&M. The business community in Baton Rouge needs to step up more.
When you're really across Louisiana, right?
Yeah, but Gordon McKernan is your main guy right now.
Right,
and he does a fantastic job. He's an injury lawyer. You have one of the biggest chains in America that was started in Baton Rouge in 1996 in Baton Rouge. It was the reason I gained 15 pounds my sophomore year. Raising Cane's.
Right.
Todd Graves started right past. They got him in Qatar.
Right.
How is he not putting more money? He puts money into the coaches. Between Les Miles and Coach Ogeron, they've been spokesmen. I think Miles Brennan got a little NIL money from Raising Cane's. You have Raising Cane's in Baton Rouge. Walk-Ons is becoming one of the bigger names. He went to LSU. Brandon Walker went to LSU, and you got to get those guys in it. Brandon Landry, sorry. Walk-ons, Brandon Landry.
Sure.
But those are two big-time places. And Dudley DeBosier, I mean, I see a lot of commercials with them. More people need to step up.
But not just that. Again, look, you've had guys that I'm going to say this. You've had boosters, part of the TAF, that for years have been financing, again, adding new coaches, paying off coaches. I know there's oil money in Texas, but there's money in Louisiana because we've seen it. And let's not pretend that there haven't been $100 handshakes going on for decades, okay? So the money, it's just legal now to be able to do it. I was surprised they just did not have their ducks in a row, okay, because that just seems really out of character for the athletic director, who seems to be cutting edge on everything.
Yeah, they got burned on this one.
They really did. I mean, look at the gambling. They were way ahead of the game on gambling. I just was very, very surprised. And now they're playing catch up. They lost out on this recruiting class because of that. They cannot afford that now. And as you mentioned, they're getting recruited right now. And the way things are with the transfer portal, Garland, you have to recruit your players every single day.
Yeah. LSU was at the forefront of where you could buy custom jerseys.
Right.
But everybody else picked that up within a week.
Right, exactly.
I mean, that's something that's fast, okay?
Right. And every jersey company is going to do that, right?
Yeah, that's coming. Just because LSU came up with that, the other ones are going to replicate it very quickly. I think probably every school in the country is going to have that by the fall.
Right.
When it's football season. No one's buying football jerseys right now. It's just not happening. Once football season starts, you're going to be buying them this summer. So I give them props on that, but they need to get this NIL thing right. And they need to get it right now, because once spring football's over, there's going to be some kids that are not happy where they are on the depth chart, and they're going to leave because they get more NIL money somewhere else.
Yep.
They need to lock in more of these guys, more NIL money right now.
Tulane, 68th by rivals, 5th in the AAC, 3rd best finish by Fritz in his 8 classes, 4th best finish for Tulane since 2002, according to rivals. Your thoughts on their class?
It was fine. There were some guys that I thought that they should maybe go after. I really like Braden Johnson. He was a running back linebacker from Ponchatoula. He's just an animal in the weight room. They didn't even give a sniff to him. I think they really need to focus more on South Louisiana. The stands are, they're okay. But if you get more local kids in there, now I will say this, they're getting transfers.
The transfer portal, they went local.
Right.
They got went with guys that went to big colleges that, again, didn't feel like they were where they were. They needed on a depth chart, and they came back to Tulane.
Got Lawrence Keys from Notre Dame that went to MAC 35. They had a Shot Clayton who was at Colorado. I covered him in Warren Easton. Very good running back. But they need to get more, I think, more guys. This is their backyard. Eric, I don't know if this is a bowl team next year. I think they're going to struggle again next season. That offensive line lost some big-time guys. You probably think the quarterback's going to be running for Michael Pratt.
Ran for his life last year.
I think he's going to be running for his life again this year. When you lose guys like Corey Dublin on the offensive line, I think it's going to be another tough season for Willie Fritz. I think they need to change some things with their roster.
Right. Well, they've made some changes at the coaching staff as well. We know that. Let's shift to basketball. UNO is the big story right now. 13-9, 6-1 in the conference. They're in first place. They've got great guard play. They've added size to that team now, and they're a team to be reckoned with in the Southland. Yeah,
that's probably our best hope for a tourney bid right now, because maybe LSU's getting back in the mix. Very impressive win at A&M on Tuesday night. Yeah, it's a nice story that Tulane's doing well in conference play.
10-11, 7-5 in conference. They dropped after the loss to Memphis last night. They dropped from 4th to 6th place, though.
Yeah, they're not making the tournament this year. It's a nice story going forward because they have a young nucleus and Jalen Cook and those guys. Maybe going forward they can start making a run at the tournament. It ain't going to happen this year, but at least they're going in the right direction, because these hires from Troy Dannon in basketball have been very unimpressive. So maybe Hunter can get it back on track.
The vibe feels much better out, again with Tulane. They've had some crowds there now. It seems like Hunter's energized the fan base. He's got the best team that he's had since he's been there. Obviously, again with the Jalen's. It'll be interesting to see if they can make some noise in the conference tournament. But that's a tough conference.
They're not gonna win the tournament. That's the only way they can make the tournament.
Right, exactly.
Houston lost
Memphis,
at SMU. Yeah, they lost at SMU the other night. So Houston, SMU are the big dogs in that conference. So maybe in the coming years you can get them going. Yeah, Ron Hunter, the 11 a.m. game gave them all free beignets. Smart move on his part. He can afford it. He's a big, well-heeled basketball coach. So they're starting to go up. I think Coach Schlesinger is one of the best coaches that we have in this area easily in any sport. For what he does there's not a lot of crowd support at all. I mean, those games still, they're graveyards. I hate to say it, but that's just the way it is. They got, 500 people, 1,000 people at those games. It's really sad because back in the day when I was a kid, I used to go to Lakefront Arena to watch Benny D's and Tim Floyd. And they used to pack them in, and now they just don't do that anymore.
And, of course, on Ferret Street, they packed it in as well with Perry Clark. LSU is no longer ranked in the top 25. They're 17-7, 5-6. They're now 7th in the SEC. They have still have a chance to get into the tournament. They got the win over Texas A&M the other night. I will have to see if they can sustain that. But again, they lost 5 of 7 at one point. I mean, again, in a tailspin. A lot of that had to do with Pinson not available at the guard position. He's healthy now. They look better against Texas A&M. We'll see what they can do this weekend.
Yeah, I still think that they had a lot of trouble on the offensive side of the ball. They were doing well on the defensive side. Now Xavier Pinson is definitely helping out. Darius Days needs to start heating up again. Tari Eason inside needs to dominate more. They got a good defensive nucleus. I mean, right now, they make the tournament, they probably get knocked out in the first round. They just don't scare you on offense.
That's because the offense is predicated on them playing really good defense.
Yeah. They
just can't create on their own. That's the thing. And then Loyola, we can't leave them out. 22-1, 7-1 in their conference. They're blowing teams out. They've moved up to number 2 in the NAIA after being 1 and then dropping to 3. What a great season for the Wolfpack.
And their only losses because they were dealing with COVID issues within the program.
It's default now,
Yeah, so I think they're doing a fantastic job over there. We've given them a lot of coverage. I know they're played 2 o'clock on Saturday, so we're going to go shoot that game. So you got to like what's going on with the Wolfpack. I mean, it's like a basketball renaissance in New Orleans.
Now people need to realize that and go see them play, right? See,
we're giving them love. They're all we've shot at Loyola from the beginning this season. We saw them moving up. You got to like what's UNL. You got Tulane. At least the other good thing is that all these teams are on television now. You can watch if you can't make it at least, and you're worried about. People still have worries about COVID, but Loyola's games are live on the internet. ESPN Plus every UNO Tulane game. So I've been able to watch a lot of their games. So just check it out because they got some good coaches and good players.
Well, and that's why we're not seeing people in the stands anymore, okay? Because it's too easy to sit on your recliner and watch these games at home.
And bet.
Right, and bet.
Yeah, I mean, mobile betting is live, baby. So now I can sit on my sofa and bet on these games.
No doubt. Garland, thanks for joining us as always. Garland Gillen of Fox 8 Sports. All right, thanks for tuning in. Remember, there are a lot of ways to catch our program in terms of the rebroadcast. First one tonight at 6 o'clock on LAE, 10 o'clock on the Deuce, WLAE-TV 2. Friday night, 9 o'clock, Pelican Sports Television, 10 o'clock on LAE. Saturday morning at 2 a.m. on Pelican Sports, on the Deuce, and then 5 o'clock Saturday afternoon on Pelican Sports Television. Always at ericasher.com, always on our social media platforms, at Eric_Asher on Twitter, Eric Asher on Facebook, Inside New Orleans Show on Instagram, and always on the WLAE-TV YouTube page, so you can always check out our program at your leisure. Catch me on the radio, 4 to 6, 106.1 FM. Again, you can listen live on the iHeartRadio app, the TuneIn Radio app, ericasher.com, and don't forget our podcast is on Anchor, but it's on every podcasting platform out there. Just search Inside New Orleans Show with Eric Asher. Again, special thanks to our underwriters who make this show possible. We appreciate those underwriters. Please support our underwriters. And then special thanks to, again, the production staff here at WLAE. Ron Yeager, Jim Dotson, Alex Chacombe, Logan Graffia, and also my director, William Hill. For Garland Gillen, I'm Eric Asher. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next week for another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports.